Okay, I recently read two insanely popular children's classics, and well, one I loved, one not so much. Go ahead and drop your prediction in the comments. Which one did I love and which one did I hate?
I hate using that word.
At the end of the video, I am going to talk about some other books that I've read recently if you're interested, so stay tuned for that as well. I also want to just preface and say that all of my book reviews come from a Christian perspective, as I do have a relationship with Jesus, and that is very important to me. And I am also a very highly sensitive person, so any triggering, hard, difficult content is going to affect me probably easier than the average person. All right, let's talk about these two classics. Okay, let's talk about The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Oh, you guys. The very first chapter of this book absolutely wrecked me. Also, sorry, I'm trying to be a bit more quiet because my toddler is taking a nap right now. Like I was saying, the very first chapter of this book absolutely wrecked me and really set a tone for me for the entire book. When I was a little girl, I had some traumatic things happen in my life that caused me to have pretty severe separation anxiety from my mom. And so, whenever that is represented in books, I tend to not do well with it, and it really affects me and my enjoyment of the book. And I guess where this book started out that way, it just caused me to really dislike the book. In some regards, I can see why people love this classic so much. It is atmospheric, and there's this, intrigue with the garden, and it does have a rather happy ending. However, it just didn't hit for me. I felt like some parts of it were a bit repetitive. I guess I wish it had more of a fantasy element to it. Like maybe there could have been something else that ended up being really special or intriguing about the garden itself, and maybe I totally zoned out and something did happen. That very well could have happened. Y'all let me know if I missed something that was like very fantastical in nature regarding the garden. But as my memory stands, there was not, and I wish that there would have been. I think it would have leveled up the book for me. Another thing that I didn't love is the amount of times that Frances wrote in the word queer. And I know that she is not using this word in a derogatory way like you would potentially see in 2025. I know she's using that word literally, but she used it so frequently that it took me out of the story a lot. And again, it just brought down my enjoyment level of it because it was kind of annoying to me. Another dislike for me from this book was the Yorkshire accent. It was very difficult for me to follow as I was mostly listening to this book through audio, which looking through my book now, I'm kind of wishing I would have just powered through and read it physically because there are illustrations in here that I didn't even know about. And that could have, I guess, added to my enjoyment. I don't know. I mean, I could see myself giving this book another chance in the future and just skipping over the first chapter. I just can't handle stuff like that, you guys, and I was not expecting it. Like, nobody, I hadn't heard anyone talk about how hard and how traumatic and depressing the first chapter of this book is. Oh, also, I guess I can tell you a little bit about what this book is actually about, just in case you don't know. I'll just read the little synopsis that's on the inside here. It says, orphaned Mary Lennox is sent to live with her uncle at Misselthwaite Manor, a remote mansion on the Yorkshire moors. She is a lonely child and miserable until she stumbles upon the key to an overgrown secret garden that has been locked for 10 years. The discovery brings a miraculous change in Mary and leads to Misselthwaite Manor giving up its dark secret. Even just reading the synopsis, I'm wondering, like, how much did I actually zone out because I felt like I just wasn't even enjoying the story? And were there like really significant things that I missed because I just wanted it to be over? I don't know. I feel like I'm going to have to give this book another chance. But to continue on, another thing that just wasn't a plus in my book was the ending. While some parts of it was like a happy and sweet ending, on the other hand, and this could potentially be a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear about this, maybe skip ahead a little bit, but I wanted a happier ending for our main character, Mary. And I just felt like that didn't happen. I feel like it happened for Colin, but I don't feel like it happened for Mary as much as I wanted it to. So, the thing that I remember liking most about this book was the interactions between Mary and Colin. I remember even giggling at one point because I just thought that it was really funny how these two, like, kind of bratty characters were coming together and colliding, and it was just pure entertainment. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's all I really have to say. I guess hate is a pretty strong word. I will say wholeheartedly, I hate the first chapter of this book. I hate it. And it really did put a damper on my reading experience. I think it could have been described in a more toned down way that would be easier to digest, especially for kids. That's my biggest issue with this is I don't think I want my daughter to read this, at least not until she's at least, 18 or older, I would say, so she can make her own decision on wanting to read it. And of course, I will warn her about the first chapter being traumatic. But yeah, it's just dark. And I wasn't expecting it to be that dark and for this book to start out in that way. I guess I was expecting this lighthearted, whimsical fantasy almost, and it wasn't that. I think I ended up landing on 3 stars for this book. That could potentially change in the future, but for now, that's where I'm landing. Sadly, this book was a flop for me. Sorry if you loved this book. It just wasn't for me. Okay, now we can move on to brighter days, at least mentally in my head, because it looks miserable outside. Guys, this is a new favorite, like all-time favorite, I would even say. I just, I adored this book so much and loved Anne's character. I wish I could meet her in real life. And my goodness, if this isn't like one of the most quotable books on planet Earth, I don't know what is, other than the Bible, of course, in my opinion. But I just want to reread it already so that I can go through and tab and annotate all of the quotes that I love in it. This was just a beautiful, magical little ride that I got to go on with Anne. And I cannot wait to continue on with the series. I think the faith content in here was really good. I absolutely adored and just loved Anne and Matthew's relationship. It pulled at my heartstrings in all the best ways. This is a book that I can't wait to read with my little girl when she's old enough. And it's a book that I want to collect multiple editions of, at least the first copy for sure. There were so many moments in here that I felt like Anne was actually teaching Marilla some really good spiritual lessons. Like, I feel like Marilla really leaned towards legalism, while Anne was really leaning into the idea of grace, which is so beautiful to see that childlike faith. And Anne didn't really know much about the Christian faith, and she was just living free. And it was a breath of fresh air for me to read. And I am honestly Marilla in a lot of ways because I can tend to lean more towards legalism, and I want to be able to grow in grace and be able to live in the freedom that Christ has given us and paid for on the cross. So, just another reason why I love Anne of Green Gables. So, this is just one of those books where you start reading it and you start to get towards the end and you begin to feel sad because you know that it's about to be over and you don't want it to be over because the book is that good. Oh, baby girl's awake. We're going to nurse the baby and continue to talk about this book. We'll see if this works. But I also just wanted to say, like, this book has the most beautiful writing that I've ever read, and I could just read it all day long. It's just gorgeous writing. It's atmospheric, it's whimsical, and it's just beautiful. So, with all of that being said, if you have not read Anne of Green Gables yet, you need to. Don't wait until you're almost 32 like me before you read Anne of Green Gables. It's just a gem, and everyone and their grandma needs to read it. So, I guess at the end of the day, I absolutely loved Anne of Green Gables and strongly disliked The Secret Garden. Also, let me know, are there any other humans out there that do not enjoy The Secret Garden like me, or am I alone on this little boat by myself? I would love to know. Okay, it is quite a bit later, but let's talk about all of the other books that I have read recently. I will start with the two books that I have physical copies of and then get into all of the other ones that were either ebooks or audiobooks or a mixture of the two. Sorry if you hear my dog. Lots of distractions in this home. We will start with gosh, if I can hold on to it. We will start with The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. I have so many tabs in this book. Some for good reasons, a lot for not so great reasons. To cut to the chase, I'm not even going to give this book a rating because of some content that I don't agree with, especially in a children's book. So my first beef with this book is the word ASS is used so many times. Like, I don't know if you can see all of the pink tabs there, but that's how many times that word was used. That to me is not appropriate to be in a children's book. I would say there's beautiful writing in here. There were some moments that were funny that made me laugh, and there were some likable characters in here. However, my biggest problem with this book has to do with my Christian faith, and it revolves around chapter 7, where these animals are literally and physically with their bodies bowing down and worshiping a false god. And it is, I think it's a Greek god, Pan, Pan. That alone is the reason why I'm not giving this book a rating. I can't say that I would recommend this book, and especially I don't think I would recommend it for children. There's some other content issues that I had some problems with. So that's all I'm going to say about this one. And then the next book that I have to talk about was part of my middle grade March TBR, and that is Skunk and Badger by Amy Timberlake. And this was really cute, guys. Not the best book I've ever read, but it was cute and it had some good illustrations in it. The skunk and badger, their relationship kind of gave me some Shrek and Donkey vibes, so love that because I'm a big fan of the movie Shrek.
That would be my home.
Oh, and it is lovely, just beautiful. You know you are quite a decorator. It's amazing what you've done with such a modest budget. I like that boulder. That is a nice boulder.
I would say it's worth a read, even though like it's not my favorite and I'm not going to continue on with the series. It was still a cute, fun little read, and it's short, so you can get through it pretty fast. So yeah, I would give it a solid 3 stars. And another book that I read recently that I'm going to make a separate video about because I actually got my husband to read it with me. So I want to document his response and review of it as well. And that is When the Day Comes by Gabrielle Meyer. I finally read this book that everyone else has read and has been talking about. So another book that I read recently that I absolutely loved, and it ended up being a 5-star for me, and that is The Princess Companion by Melanie Cellier. I've heard it pronounced both ways. It was so cute. It was my very first fairy tale retelling that I've ever read, and I can't wait to read more. It was very clean and sweet romance. There were some parts within the book that were a little bit more slow for me, but overall, it was a really great book. I would highly recommend it, and I want to thank Lindsay from Books for Christian Girls because she put me onto that book, and I think she's put many people onto that book. So I'm thankful to Lindsay for making me aware of that book. Okay, another 5-star read for me was Beyond Ivy Walls by Rachel Fordham. And this is not a Beauty and the Beast retelling, I don't think, but you can definitely see some themes throughout the book that resemble Beauty and the Beast. I would look up some trigger warnings because there are a couple things in there that were pretty hard for me to read. Overall, I loved the romance in this. It was very clean, it was very sweet. I loved the setting. I can't wait to read more of Rachel Fordham's books. All right, another book that I read that was a part of Middle Grade March was The Vanderbeekers of 141st Street by Karen Yan Glasser, I think is her name. This was actually a friend recommendation from my little TBR jar that I made, and it was from my friend Cheryl from the Candlewick Library. I really liked the story. It wasn't quite 5-star level for me, but I would say it's probably like a 4.5 star. I think if there weren't so many siblings to keep track of, I would have enjoyed it more. But I overall really enjoyed it, and I will continue on with the series. Yeah, not much more to say. It was a good story. It was heartwarming. It was funny at times. All right, friends, that is all that I have for this video. I will see you guys again soon or over on Instagram. And until then, I hope that you are having a blessed day and know that you are so loved.